Last month, a Canadian delegation, including the Governor-General, visited Greenland to open a new Canadian consulate and support the territory amid threats from the U.S. president. Earlier, I sat down with the Governor-General to discuss her trip to Greenland, the threats against the Arctic territory's sovereignty, and more. Governor-General, thank you for making the time. Nice to see you again.
Yes, nice to see you too.
This past weekend at the Munich Security Conference, because the security of the Arctic is one of the hot topics right now, as you know. Denmark's Prime Minister said at that conference that Donald Trump remains intent on acquiring Greenland somehow. Are you concerned about the future of Greenland? I know you've been there many times in your various roles, including as ambassador to Denmark. Are you concerned about what the president has been saying about Greenland?
Well, Greenlanders are very concerned about it, and I have a long-standing relationship with a lot of Greenlandic Inuit, and they continue to be concerned, and I share their view, and I've told them that as a country, Canada, we are behind and supportive of Denmark and Greenland in their efforts to deal with the things that they've been dealing with for many years, which is partly a semi-autonomous part of Denmark now, and the way forward is to continue this dialogue between Greenland and Denmark, because it's them that has to decide what the future is for Greenland.
I wondered, as an Inuit, what it felt like to hear those threats from Donald Trump about taking over a territory that is mostly Inuit people.
I first thought about the Greenlandic Inuit and just tried to put myself in their shoes, see how what it was like to actually have that kind of a threat over your head, and it creates a lot of anxiety. It creates a lot of turmoil. Even now, even though the threat has kind of gone to the wayside a bit because of these discussions that are happening, people are still very worried that this could come back. So putting myself in their position, I would continue to be very concerned about it.
What do you think it is about Greenland that is so appealing to this particular American president?
Well, we've all heard it. It's the geopolitical location of Greenland, which is considered to be a strategic part of the NATO allied system. And I think that when you think back on how long I've been involved in the Arctic in the circumpolar region, these are things, people didn't even talk about the Arctic. It was just the Arctic peoples that actually talked about the Arctic. And since, the conflict in different parts of the world and the geopolitics of what's now considered to be a very strategic part of our security matter, there's been a lot more discussion about Arctic issues, but our relationship goes a long way back. And part of my trip to Greenland, in addition to supporting the opening of the consulate, is to continue the working relationship that we have, the people-to-people relationship, because I always say sovereignty begins at home. And in the Arctic, there are scattered communities all over the Arctic. They are the permanent residents of the Arctic. So they help us as a country assert our sovereignty. And that is why I always feel that people-to-people connections, making sure that you're looking after your community so you have a better, healthier, thriving community. These are things that we have been working with Greenland on as Canadian Inuit, and including Alaska, and then Chukotka in Russia as well. My role, to me, in this type of role that I have as Governor General, is to bring that together even more.
You also mentioned sovereignty, and as sovereignty begins at home. That's an interesting line for right now, because Canada is also feeling threats. Perhaps less directly than we had before. But Canadians are feeling that from various ways from the United States. And as we've heard from the Prime Minister, the relationship has changed dramatically. How are you viewing that in terms of what it's doing to this country and how this country is experiencing it?
On a personal level, I've been concerned about it, but as the Governor General of Canada, I bring stability to the country, and that's my role, is to bring stability in terms of our relationship across the country. But I think it has this whole thing about becoming a state of the U.S. has brought Canada together even more than it has ever been. I think, for instance, we hadn't dealt with the interprovincial trades for a very long time, but it gave us the momentum to cooperate even more closely in between the provinces. And these are things that I think, in the end, will strengthen our country.
Yeah. But you said off the top that personally it is something that worries you.
Well, what worries me is that things that we don't have a lot of control over can happen in these types of situations. It's not so much about becoming a state, but the politics and the geopolitical situation that can happen in these types of situations, that concerns me.
Your time as Governor General. And, there was much made, of course, that you're the first Indigenous Governor General. I wonder how you think that has impacted your role, how being Inuit has changed your approach to this job, and how it has perhaps helped it.
Well, it certainly brought a certain perspective about Canada, because having born and raised in the Arctic and in isolated communities and becoming the Governor General, there's a bit stark difference there. But I always fall back to my identity and my culture. But I always say to Canadians, I am an Indigenous person, but I'm the Governor General of Canada. So my Indigenous culture and identity may influence the way I see things, but it doesn't influence the way I deal with things, because I try to be balanced in my perspective, whether it's Indigenous or non-Indigenous, that these are things that we have to work step by step. And I always see myself as a bridge builder and as a leader that brings stability.
I do want to ask, and I recognize you might not be able to say much, but I do want to ask about what happened in the United Kingdom, given that you are the King's representative, with the arrest of the former Prince Andrew. And I don't want to ask about him in particular. I want to ask about how you think that impacts people's view of the monarchy, and whether it concerns you that it could impact it negatively.
Well, first of all, I leave it up to His Majesty to comment on the situation as we've seen it through the media, and it's not for me to take any view on it. His Majesty is the King of the United Kingdom, so that's his responsibility. I don't know, there's a discussion that's happening about how it may impact the royal family, but I don't have a strong opinion about it at this time. I don't really, I don't know the details. I don't know what's going on or going to happen, so I think time will tell.
Yeah. There was conversation when you were installed about being Indigenous and representative of the monarchy. How have you reconciled those things, do you think, in the end?
Well, I didn't find it hard to reconcile, because, I've worked for the Government of Canada before as Ambassador for Circumpolar Affairs. I took that role in a way where I would bring the Northern Arctic peoples into the international forum through the creation of the Arctic Council. So when I became Governor General, I thought about it, because there were some Indigenous people that weren't totally happy about the appointment. But I always look at it in a way where if I can influence anything, in terms of how we're moving forward in Canada, I can do it from either outside of the organization or within the organization. So I took it as something that I would use as a way to talk to Canadians about the relationship that we need to build with Indigenous people and all Canadians, because that's something that has to happen, and it has happened to quite a large degree, but there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Your Excellency, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
My pleasure.